story for tonight, shall we? This one is frustrating because August was the month in Hell House when everything was just the worst. August was the thinning of the veil at Hell House, and the drums in the deep would sound almost nightly. The red lights were almost constant. The man in the bowler hat was braver. The kids would always play. The creeper would always chase. It was just alive during August. So one August, I decided to invite some ghost hunters to investigate Hell House during its peak season, during a week that it had already been terrorizing us all week. So the ghost hunters came over, and they used EVP and a couple of other things that were used at the time. They did not have nearly the arsenal that ghost hunters do now, though. And they investigated that whole house, but they ended off mainly focusing on the basement. And the entire time that they were there, nothing happened. Nothing at all. I was so mad. And then they said, "Yeah, I don't think your house is haunted, I'm sorry," and left. And I kid you not, less than 15 minutes after they drove away, the drums in the deep started, the red lights started, and we left to go get ice cream because I was just so mad. I couldn't deal with that anymore. And my mom could tell, so she got me out of the house because I was about to just start punching walls. I'd love to go back and be able to investigate with the kind of technology that we have now, because the only thing I remember them using was EVPs on a little voice recorder and disposable cameras. So we didn't get anything, and the house stayed quiet while they were there.
The world is going up in flames. The world is going up in flames. The world is going up in flames.
Viewer discretion is advised. To truly understand how Hell House made me feel, you need to see this. Do not watch if easily triggered. Here we go. Hope you all had a very happy Halloween. I know I did. My family had a great time together celebrating the holiday. But now I would like to tell another Hell House story. This one is not particularly paranormal, but it set the tone for my entire high school relationship with Hell House. I do not remember which year this was, but I do remember that I was in high school. Not early high school, not late high school, so just somewhere in the middle, either sophomore or junior, don't remember. But it was a 4th of July summer, and something you need to understand about my family with 4th of July is we spend it at my great aunt's house most of the time. She has a little house on a lake property that we can all swim at. It's basically the party house of the family. It's where I had my wedding shower and stuff like that. And usually that's where all of our family from out of town will come and stay. Also, all of you who said that I have perfect skin, no, I don't. I was just having a good day. I got the pimples today. I don't have perfect skin, so don't fool yourselves. We're all human. We all have skin flaws. But I was over at my great aunt's house because, you know, my family was out of town, and we had been there all day. And I believe it was actually the 4th of July day, because I remember we wanted to shoot off fireworks, but it was raining so hard. It was a storm that came through, and it just dumped buckets of water to the point that we just stayed at our aunt's house until very late at night, because we didn't want to drive home in that torrential downpour. It would have been dangerous. But finally, at around 11 o'clock at night, the rain let up. Not enough that it stopped raining, but it wasn't dumping on us anymore. So we packed up from my aunt's house and we drove back to Hull House, and we immediately knew something was horribly wrong from the smell of sewage that blasted out of the front door. Like raw sewage. It was awful, and I gagged and had to leave back outside of the house immediately. I couldn't even be in there. And part 2 coming up. So my parents went inside to assess what the hell had gone on, what was causing that smell, and they were led to the basement. Now, I did not see this with my own eyes, but my parents did, and from their descriptions, the water in the basement was up to their chests, which means it had gotten onto all of our clothes in the basement that were hanging or waiting in baskets to be washed. It had gotten onto some of the electronics in the computer room, but luckily the computer was on a high enough desk with enough height that it was just some cordage that needed to be fixed, and the computer was okay. But the worst thing was down there behind the computer was where we kept all of our Dungeons and Dragons manuals, our adventure logs, my art books, all of our personal usage stuff that we would just need to grab really quickly and use with the computer. And that was a short shelf that stopped at chest height. My art books were on the very top shelf, and they were soaked halfway through. So, like, all of the pictures had sewage all the way up, half of them. And my dad, the first thing he did when he got down there was he grabbed my art books and pulled them out of the water. I'm sorry, guys. This was hard to talk about. He brought it up to the kitchen, and he laid them all out so beautifully. And he pulled out all of the box fans. And he just sat in there and cried so hard, trying to save all of my art, pulling the pages apart and blowing the fans on them. So I had it up to then, like, I think it was 11 books, large books, filled to the brim with art. And it was the first time I ever saw my dad cry. He tried to save those pieces so hard. Hold on, I need to collect myself. Sorry about that, guys. We're getting into the nitty gritty, meaty parts of Hell House. And you will see me get emotional more often with these stories, and there's a reason that I have never gotten to these stories on a public platform, is because some of them do make me cry really hard, and I can't tell them without crying. So if you want to hear the rest of Hell House, you're going to have to deal with my emotions, because I still have some. I'm still a person. But I still have all of the pieces from that time. And after the flood, I tried to digitize everything. All of the pieces that were damaged, of course, can't be fixed or anything like that. But my dad was able to clean off all of the sewage. He very diligently disinfected every single page, made sure they were all dry and safe. He taped up the backs of ones that had fallen apart in the drying process. He took so much good care of my art. But they're still ruined, which is why in the Hell House pieces you'll see some of them have water damage seeping up them. That's from the 4th of July flood. And there was so much in that basement that got destroyed. It wasn't just my art, but that was what made me fall apart. Like, I remember I was just on the floor screaming, trying to breathe. My dad was over me crying. I'm sure the house loved it. Fucking loved it. But after the flood, we started really looking into the flooding problems of Hell House, because up until then it had only stayed in the wet room in the back that we'd never used, where like the hot water heater and the furnace shit was. So my dad found out that all of the like sewer tunnels that led through the neighborhood of Hell House were made of clay, and the forest roots had grown through them so bad that the city was not willing to replace them. There was also corporate blasting of caves underneath our house that made it shake every day at 11 a.m. And we would do the Mary Poppins "Places, everyone!" to try to keep everything from falling off our shelves and stuff. Need a part 3 or part 4. So the house was just falling apart at the seams. The water was coming up from the basement horrifically. The house smelled of sewage because it was from the sewer that it had come up. So we had to get a dumpster and throw out most of the things that had gotten most of the sewer damage. The only thing that had gotten sewage on it that my dad did not throw away was my art. That was the only thing he was willing to save. My dad doesn't show his emotions very well, but he showed me how much he loved me then. He really did. But after that, he got a sump pump to put in that back room, in the wet room, as I call it. And because we were able to get a sump pump down there and handle the sewage problem coming up, we were able to help out one of my cousins who desperately needed a place to stay while he got on his feet after, I believe it was the death of his father. I was a kid, I don't really remember, but I remember he was having financial issues and his dad had died. But once we got the basement all sorted and got that sump pump put in and the sewage problems at least manageable back in the wet room, we fashioned that other back room into a little bedroom for my cousin, and he moved in. He was a late 20s guy, his favorite movie was Fight Club. He liked to play our Donkey Kong Country 2 video game with my brother. He didn't really hang out with me much. Not sure why. But the flood was what led to us being able to help our cousin have somewhere to stay for a season. And the next few stories will involve the house terrorizing him. And again, I'm sorry for my emotional state. I don't think I'll be able to tell some of these stories without crying. As I said, I've never told them in a public setting because I knew this would happen, so I do apologize. But there's nothing I can do about it. Hell House was a traumatizing and very sad, terrible experience.
Au contraire, mon ami. I am absolutely an emotional wreck. That's why I can't keep a job. And I am in weekly therapy. I'm just really good at acting, and I have been doing public shit all my life. So when I'm doing stuff for you guys, I do try really, really hard to keep my emotions in check, because that's not what you're here for. And I am not here to use you guys for that kind of shit. I have a therapist for that. So I have been able to keep it in check up until now, but we're getting to the big stories that will sometimes make me cry. But that one's one of the worst ones, because my dad makes me cry a lot, because I got daddy issues. Yeah, I appreciate you seeing how hard this is, but I do promise I will try to keep things in check. If I do cry and get emotional, I'll just know it's because I could not stop myself, because I try a lot. Hi everyone, I just woke up. My brain feels like porridge soup, but I think it's time for another Hell House story. I hear it's been almost a week now. And first I have a little Hell House announcement. My mother's interview is going to be a little bit later this week because she is not feeling well. Okay, so in Hell House, the last thing you heard was about the flood and the sump pump, and because of that, we were allowed to have our cousin move in. He was a young adult, very irresponsible. I didn't see him much. But the first thing I remember was we were all up in the front yard. Mom was there gardening, and I was there. I don't remember what I was doing. I think I was just chilling. And there was a scream from inside Hell House. And then we heard and he busted out the front door and yelled my mother's name and was like, "There's somebody outside in the backyard in the forest getting murdered. I think it's a woman." And Mom kind of did this and said, "I'll go back and check with you. Come on." My cousin was absolutely terrified. He didn't want to go back there, but Mom knew what was happening. So she took him back to the backyard, and of course I tootled along a little and eavesdropped because, that's interesting. Someone dying in the woods, I want to know. But he was there, and he was all nervous and looking around, saying, like, "We gotta get her some help. We gotta get her some help. There's someone out there." And then it screamed again. And my cousin grabbed my mother, and she laughed and said, "Boy, that's a screech owl. We have them here. You'll hear that a lot. Welcome to Hell House." That's not a woman dying. That's just a screech owl. And ever since then, whenever he would hear a screech owl, he would look at us and go, "Was that an owl?" I was like, yes, that was an owl. Okay. It wasn't always owls, but we didn't need him to scare like too bad. All right. So, this story happened right around the same time as the last few ones, killing a zombie and the flood and my cousin moving in. But we began to hear scratching in the attic, and the person who heard it most was my mom, because there was an attic vent in the hallway between the bathroom, my room, and the bedroom, up in the ceiling, and she had been hearing scratching up there, and no one else had really heard it except for a few times, and we thought maybe it had been rats or something in the attic, because we couldn't get into our attic, so we didn't even know what was up there. So one morning, I was snoozing. Mom was getting ready to wake us up for school, and she was going from the kitchen where she was making coffee and breakfast back to the hallway to turn into my bedroom to wake me up. Now, I woke up to my mother screaming, just screaming, and I bolted up and I ran out the bedroom. By the time I got there, I could see that Mom had been looking up into the vent that went into the attic. But by the time I got there, she was laughing so hard. And it was because a black cat head was poking between the little slots of that vent, and was just looking around in our house from the ceiling. It turns out it was a cat that we had been feeding that was feral, and we'd been feeding them outside, and I guess he just wanted to move into the house, so we named him Sebastian. And I feel like we might have already said this story before, but I don't care. It's a good one. Sebi was a good cat. He was a big, big boy. And he lived a long, happy life with our family, and he chose our family by scaring the shit out of my mom one day. And thank goodness the scratching in the attic wasn't anything actually paranormal or worse. It was just a cute little cat who wanted some love.